Alright guys, today we are going to customize the data grid control. So as you can see, I've already prepared our project according to MVVM pattern and also added the database file, commands and models, etc. Let me show you the model file, so if you want you can pause the video and create your model file accordingly. And this is our view model in which I have already defined the connection string for the database that I will be using, and I have already loaded the values in collections which we will be later binding to our data grid. Now let's get started by adding a data grid and name it data grid. We will set the isRead only property to true and auto generate columns to false. Now in the item source we are going to bind the collection from the model. Next we will set the overall margin for data grid to 10 pixels. Now we will add the columns to our data grid, and then what we are going to do is bind them with the respective properties of collection. So our first column is going to contain the first names of employees. So we will add a data grid text column and set header as first name, minimum width as 150 pixels, and width to star so that our column occupies the maximum available space. Now let's repeat the same steps for other columns, which are last name, task details, start date and end date. Now last but not least, we will add bindings for our columns. So our data grid is ready, and now I am going to show you how to style the data grid. But before we move forward, please make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and also like this video. Coming back to our video, open Solution Explorer and add a resource dictionary file of name data grid in styles folder. Now switch back to main window and right click data grid, go to edit template and select edit a copy. This will open a dialog in which we will select apply to all and define in application, which means in app.xml. Then press OK. And now you can see our data grid template is defined in app.xml. Let's just close it for now and add another template for column header. So right click data grid again, go to additional template, then edit column header style and edit a copy. Again apply to all and define in application. And repeat the same steps for row style as well. Now let's switch to XML view of app.xml and move all the styles to datagrid.xml resource dictionary that we created earlier. Okay, now at first we will customize the data grid, then we will move forward to elements within it. So scroll down to data grid's style and add a setter for alternating row background and set the brush. Next we will set the scroll word or can content scroll to false. But before that, let me show you how our scroll will work when we leave it to true. So the data grid is going to scroll row by row by default, and when we set the value as false, we will be able to scroll through our rows pixel by pixel and not row by row. Next property we are going to change is the grid line visibility to horizontal. That simply means that only horizontal grid lines should be visible in data grid rows. And also let's say we want to change the brush of this horizontal grid line to something else. So let's do it by changing the property horizontal grid lines brush. Next we will set the header visibility property to column, since we only want column header to be visible, and hide the row header. We will set the selection mode to say single. And I forgot about the border thickness, so let's just add border thickness property and set value to 0. Okay, now we will define this data grid resource dictionary in app.xml and add a resource dictionary source to our data grid resource dictionary file. Now we can run and see the changes made to data grid. So the horizontal lines are visible and vertical lines are hidden. and only single row is selectable at a time. And data grid border thickness is gone as well. Great. Now let's move forward and style data grid column header. So scroll down till you see data grid column header style. Add a setter for background property with respect to dynamic resource as value. After that, add a setter for font weight property with semi-bold as value. Then add setter for padding property and set value to 10 pixels. Now add setter for minimum height with value as 25 pixels. Now let's move forward to control template and change default theme border to just border element and remove all missing properties. Next, we will add a grid element with margin template binded to padding property of column header. And then move the content presenter inside this grid. After that, we will add two columns in our grid. First column will contain content presenter alone and the second one will contain the sort icons. So let's add a stack panel in column 1, which is the second column, and set orientation as horizontal. And set margin 5 pixels from left. Inside this stack panel we will have two path elements, but before that we will define the icons.xml file in app.xml to access the icons application-wide. Now let's go ahead and add the first path with name SortUp_icon, and for data value as dynamic resource SortUp, height as template binded to font size, fill as dynamic resource icon static, stretch as uniform, and width 10 pixels. Repeat the same for the second path element. Next, we are going to add triggers to the control template. So add a trigger on property sort direction with value ascending, and setter target will be the sort down icon with property fill and value as sort down icon active brush. Repeat the same with trigger on sort direction as descending and set the target to SortUp_icon. Now let's execute the program and check the header style in action. The sorting is working perfectly, also the icons are changing the fill as expected. Now let's scroll to data grid style and add border thickness on bottom of data grid and change the border brush as well. In data grid column header style, we are going to add foreground property and set the respective dynamic resource. Now change the minimum height to height and change value to 32 pixels. Next, we will change the padding value from 10 pixels to 5 pixels only from left and right sides. Now let's go to data grid row style and add a minimum height of 30 pixels. Moving forward, let's add a new style for data grid cell. Now add a setter for foreground and bind the value to data grid's foreground property. Then add setter for margin with value 5 pixels from both the sides. After that, setter for vertical content alignment and set the value to center. Next, we will edit the template of the data grid cell. And like always, we will add control template. And inside the control template, we will add border. Then template bind its background border brush and thickness properties to data grid cells respective property. Then add content presenter with vertical and horizontal alignments template binded to data grid cells vertical and horizontal content alignment properties. Then finally margin template binded to data grid cells padding property. Okay, so next we are going to add data template for row details. Now you might be thinking, what is row details? Actually, it is simply the data that you want to represent below the selected row. So let's add a border with margin as 5 pixels, border thickness 1 pixel, and border brush as respective dynamic resource. Now let's add a text block with 5 pixels margin from all the sides. And since we want to show the performance rating and status of task when the row is selected, we will add first run element with text performance rating. Then second run element with text binding to count property of model. Then add a line break element and repeat same steps for status detail. Next we will assign this data template to the row details presenter element, which is present in data grid row control template. Assign the row details template to content template property of data grid details presenter as dynamic resource, and then we will add a trigger on each selected property of data grid row to show the row details. So setter property will be details visibility and value as visible. Now let's execute the code and check how our design looks in real time. So now as we can see, the row details are visible when the row is selected. Sort and all is also working perfectly. Rest everything seems fine. Regarding the scroll bar, I will drop the link to tutorial which I have done recently. So thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. See you in the next video. Till then,